Woo-wee, 5.3. Okay, now we're getting into actually solving polynomial equations. So we've done solving before, but it's usually just been a quadratic. If we're solving a polynomial, first thing we want to do is factor to a point where we are able to actually solve. We'll get into a couple different options. And then we want to use the zero product property. So then we want to set them equal to 0, like we did in chapter 4, and solve. So first thing we can do here is set this equal to 0. So look at how it says real or imaginary. So there could be a chance where we would have an imaginary number. We'll see what happens. So first I'm going to subtract this over. So I'm going to have the 2x cubed minus 5x squared minus 3x equals 0. For all the problems, first you want to see is there something that I can take out. I can take out an x, leaving me with 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. Now I want to see if I can factor this even further, which I can. So I'm looking for numbers to multiply to get my 2x squared right here and 3. So let's see if I put the 3 here, I can make a 6 and a 1 there. So I'm going to do 3 and 1. This multiplies to get a 6. This will multiply to get 1. I need the 6 to be negative, the 1 to be positive, so then I can add together to get negative 5. And now I set all of these equal to 0, and I solve for each of them. Because remember, with a zero product number, it doesn't matter which one of these when you're multiplying is 0. So my solutions be 0, negative 1/2, because I subtract the 1, divide by 2, and positive 3. I want you to try to do B right now by yourself. One thing when you do this, when you subtract the 6x over, make sure that that goes in the middle. You want to make sure that this is in standard form. Pause video, do it by yourself. You might have been like, Ms. Rickman, I can't do this. So here's the thing. This is an answer. If I set this equal to 0 and solved, I would get that x is equal to 0. So I'm going to already write my answer down here for sure to remember that x is equal to 0. Here, if I just focus on this one, I can't solve this by actually doing opposite arithmetic, but I can do it with the opposite b, plus or minus the square root. Notice why I'm putting this in parentheses, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So now I can simplify this to plus or minus the square root of negative 12 over 2. This would be the same thing as 2 plus or minus, I'm going to have an I here because this is negative, and if I were to simplify this, it would be 2i square root 3 over 2. And if I simplify this out, 2 plus or minus 2i square root 3 over 2. My other answer is 1 plus or minus I square root 3. This all is an equation together. I do not have a comma. These are not separate answers. This is the number together. So now if I look at C, now this is already factored for me. And what I can do, which is nice, is I can already set both of these equal to 0 to solve. Now, why can I set this already equal to 0 to solve? Is because I don't have another x value here. I'm just trying to get this x by itself and this one. So first step I have to do is add the 1 over to get rid of something squared or to take the square root. Remember, there's two answers that this x could be. So x would be equal to positive negative 1. Same thing here, I subtract my 4 over, then I have to take my square root. There's two answers that can be. Square root of 4 is 2, square root of negative is I. So I have two answers, 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to try to do this last one by yourself. So I can move everything over. I can factor out an x cubed from all of these. I can factor this, multiply to get positive 6, negative 2 times negative 3, add to get negative 5. So my zeros are at 0, 2, and 3. If you want to put more time into looking at this, this is different things that might have to factor, but I'm going to get right into actually factoring. So we're going to solve by grouping. So if we have a cubic, so first thing I want to do is set this equal to 0. So I'm going to move over my 2x and my 16. There's nothing that I have in common there, so I can't factor anything out. But what I want to do is group the first two terms. This is where it's very important to have this in standard form. So my highest degree first, and then each one lower after that. What do these two have in common? So that I have an x squared here in common. That would be left with an x plus 8. Here, I can take out a 2, and I would be left with an x plus 8. Now, what you can do is one of your parentheses is x plus 8 because that's what you got in both of these. Both of these had an x plus 8. The other parentheses is what you took out. So my x squared, and I took out a 2. This is that thinking process. So sometimes people can do this in their head. That's fine if you want to, but this is the thinking process. Now I can set both of these equal to 0. So x squared plus 2 is equal to 0, and x plus 8 is equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract my 2. So I'm going to have a negative 2, take the square root. Remember, I have a plus or minus here. When I take the square root of this, that would be an I because it's negative, and square root 2. Here I subtract the 8, just like that. I want you to try to do this one right here by yourself. You should have got x equal positive negative 2i, because remember right here when I take this square root, square root of 4 is 2, square root of is negative is an I, and because I could potentially have two answers here, because this will always be positive, or in this case, if it's imaginary, negative, that's why I need to have this plus or minus. Here, subtract the 2, divide by 3, bing, bada, boom. I want you to try to do C and D by yourself right now. So if you're kind of like, oh, I'm not sure what to do. When I group these two, this is negative. If your leading term is negative, same thing, I want to take out a negative. So I take out a negative 3, leaving me with a 3x plus 1. These two have to match. If these two do not match, then you cannot rewrite the problem. If these two do not match, you cannot factor by grouping. So I took out an x squared, I took out a minus 3, and then I'm left with a 3x plus 1. So I solve both of those, get plus or minus square root 3, and then I also get a negative 1/3. If you didn't try D yet by yourself, pause the video and try it. If you did, here I can take out a negative 8. Here I can take out an x squared. So I have an x squared minus 8 and x minus 1. When I add the 8 and I take the square root, I have to simplify this root. So this is putting everything that we have been doing all in together for each problem. So I can take out a pair of 2's. So I have a 2 here. This 2 stays inside, plus or minus, because there's still two answers here. And then here I have a 1. One thing you can go back and check, but including multiplicity, if my degree is 3, I should have 3 answers. Here my degree is 3, and I have 3 answers. If we go back over here my degree is 3, we have 3 answers. Here my degree is 3, we have 3 answers. But wait, if we look at the front side, here my degree is 4, we have 1, 2, 3 answers. That doesn't make sense, but look at the 0 happened twice. This had a multiplicity of 2. So this was 1, 2, 3, 4 because of the plus or minus. Here, there's 2 answers here. There's 2 answers here, 4 answers. Here, a degree of 5, but this one happened 3 times. So 3 for 0 and then 4, 5. So your degree, you can always check with your degree how many answers you should have. Back to the original programming. Last set of factoring questions. So I'm going to first move this over. X to the fourth minus 3x squared minus 4. Now, because of the fact that this is going down by a power of 2, if x to the fourth down by 2, 2 down by 2, 0. I can still factor this like we have been. I can split x to the fourth up to be x squared and x squared, because x squared times x squared will give me x to the fourth. Now I can look for numbers that multiply to get negative 4, add to get 3, so negative 4 and positive 1. These two would multiply together to get me my negative 4. If I check this, x squared times 1 is 1x squared. 4x squared times x squared is negative 4x squared. So 1x squared minus 4x squared, that gives me my middle term. So I can still factor this like we have been doing, and now I can solve this. X minus 4 is equal to 0, and x plus 1 is equal to 0. Those are x's, not y. So I add my 4 over, take the square root, x is equal to positive negative 2. Here I subtract my 1 over, take the square root, positive negative I. I want you to try to do b by yourself. You should have gotten positive negative I squared 2, positive negative I squared 3. Here, first thing I want to do is set equal to 0. If you do not, you're going to lose some answers. I could rewrite this if I wanted to, so it looks like this. And then this is just like how we have been doing. Two multiple numbers that multiply to get negative 16 that add together to get 0 would be a positive 4 and a negative 4. Again, I'm splitting up with x squared because I have to make sure that that first two terms add up or multiply to get x to the fourth. Finish solving this problem. Pause and finish. You should have gotten positive negative 2i, because when I take the square root of this, that negative would give me the I. And remember, two answers here. Here, I want you to factor however you feel best. You should get 0, negative 4, and 2. Now, this video showed you a lot of different ways that you can factor. And you have a multiple different things in your toolbox now that you can use to factor. And have a great day.